Hi there. My name is Corey Barber. I'm the Assistant Director in Student Disability Services at the University of San Francisco. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Disability Services works at USF. I'm going to give you a brief demo of how to request services online, and then I'm going to answer some quick, frequently asked questions at the end of the presentation. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about are the major differences between accessing accommodations in K through 12 versus at the post-secondary level. So in K through 12, and if any of you are students or have students that had IEPs or 504 plans set up, you will know this already. But in K through 12, accommodations are a result of what's known as the IDEA Act. This is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And the primary focus of this law or act is success, making sure education is a right that everyone has access to. Universities, on the other hand, answer to the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. This means that our focus is not necessarily success, but is primarily focused on equal access. So that means our goal is to ensure that students with disabilities have the same access to programs, extracurricular activities, services, etc., that they have the same access as their non-disabled peers. So that's the first major difference between universities and K through 12. They primarily answer to some different laws. Another major component of this process that might differ from the K through 12 experience is that students must identify themselves and request accommodations. Once you get to the university level, students are required to be part of the interactive process where we determine what accommodations are appropriate for their courses. Decisions about accommodations can't be made without the input from the student. They have to be a major component in the entire process. Also at the university level, it's really important that accommodations not fundamentally alter the nature of the service, program, or activity that the student is participating in. It's also important that the accommodation not create any kind of undue burden on the institution. But primarily what our goal is to find an accommodation that will give the student access to the program on an equal playing field as their non-disabled peers, without fundamentally altering the integrity of the course, activity, or program in which they're enrolled. So now I want to talk a little bit about disability services at the University of San Francisco specifically. Student Disability Services, or SDS as we're known around campus, have 6 full-time staff. We have 4 disability specialists that each carry a caseload of students, and 2 full-time administrative staff that implement almost all of our accommodations for all of our students. This can include things like proctoring exams, they do a lot of proctoring, or managing a lot of the technology that our various students use, hiring note takers or scribes or readers or that sort of thing. And they do a lot of converting textbooks to electronic formats for our students. We're physically located in the main library on campus, Gleason Library, on the lower level, near the Learning Center and the Speaking Center and the Writing Center. So there's a lot of resources down there on the lower level of the library that are important to lots of different students. SDS serves about 10% of the student population, which usually, that's usually around 1,000 students, both graduate and undergraduate students. We see a vast variety of different types of different disabilities. But the more common ones include psychological disabilities, which make up about 35% of our 1,000 students. About 20% of our caseload are diagnosed with ADHD. About 14% have chronic health conditions, and somewhere around 12% have learning disabilities. So if you're a student with a disability, what should you do if you want to set up accommodations at USF? The first step is going to be to fill out our online form to request services. So I'm going to go ahead and actually minimize the presentation for just a second so I can show you guys exactly how to request services. You're going to open your browser and you're going to go to www.usfca.edu/SDS. and then scroll down here to where it says Request Services from SDS. This will bring you to our online student application. Fill this out. I would say it's going to take you max 10 minutes to fill out. It's going to ask for a lot of demographic information, your name, your student ID, how we can best get in contact with you, your disability, a brief description of how your disability impacts you specifically, because as we know, not everyone with the same diagnosis experiences the same things in school or otherwise. And then down here, it's going to ask you some questions about your past use of accommodations, what accommodations you might be requesting at USF, and any other challenges or struggles that you think might be relevant for our office to know about, so that while we're determining accommodations, we have that information. Once you submit this form, the next screen is going to prompt you to submit documentation. You can go ahead, if you have a 504 plan or an IEP from high school or younger, you can go ahead and upload that directly to your application here. Or if you have a note from your doctor or some other report from like the public school system or anything in that realm, you can go ahead and upload that directly to your application here. So the next part of the process is going to be the intake and eligibility appointment. Once our office receives your application, you're going to be assigned to a specialist and have what we call an intake and eligibility appointment. This is typically done over the phone or on Zoom or in person, where we're going to discuss the information you provided in the application and establish what accommodations are going to be appropriate for you during your time at USF. So we'll take a lot of the information we got either from your doctor or from you when you filled out the application. But a really important part of this whole process is us getting to know you specifically. And that's why we really like to take a half hour to an hour to really get to know students and hear a little bit about how accommodations have helped them in the past or where they've struggled in school in the past, and how we might be able to help now. Because hearing from you is almost sometimes more important than knowing maybe what your doctor recommends or that kind of thing. So there's a lot of components that go into determining accommodation eligibility. Once your accommodations are established, you're going to have a profile set up with our office, and that's what you're going to use to request your accommodations each semester and have your faculty notification letters sent to your professors. So do you remember earlier when I was talking about how students have a responsibility to identify themselves and request their accommodations? That continues to be part of the process throughout the entire time at USF. Each semester, when your classes change and you have new faculty, it's important to request your accommodations again and send those letters to your new faculty so that they know what your accommodations are. And it's really important that students initiate this process. SDS is never going to automatically apply your accommodations. Even though you're eligible for those accommodations, we're never going to automatically apply those to your courses without your consent or without you initiating that process. Because you have a certain right to confidentiality and to privacy that we're not going to take it upon ourselves to notify people of your accommodations or that you're a registered student with a disability. So this part where you request your accommodations each semester is a really important component of that and might be a little bit different than using accommodations in the past may have been. So this is a sample of a faculty notification letter. So this is a sample of what your instructors are going to get each semester. As you can see at the top there, there's some legal jargon about what your faculty's responsibilities are, and then it lists really clearly what your specific accommodations are. And again, you get to kind of pick and choose what that area says and what your faculty get notified of. So it's as easy as that. You have 3 steps to establishing eligibility and then remembering to notify your faculty each semester. So if you have any other questions about the accommodation process or registering with our office, I encourage you to go to our website. There's a really comprehensive sort of layout of all the possible scenarios. And that's www.usfca.edu/SDS. But in the meantime, here are the answers to a couple of questions that we get a lot at SDS. So what kind of documentation do I need to submit? Depending on your disability, there's a number of different types of verification our office will accept, but the range is really broad. Ultimately, what our office is looking for from clinicians is a clear description of your disability or condition, the functional limitations of that condition, as well as, accommodation recommendations and a rationale for those things. Those can be really helpful as well. They're not required, but if your clinician does have any recommendations for our office, that can sometimes be really helpful. I'm going to minimize again really quickly and bring you back to the USFCA.edu/SDS website. If you go over here to where it says documentation guidelines on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a little bit more comprehensive layout of the kinds of documentation that we'll accept. And down at the bottom, there is a link to a verification form that may be a good place to start if your clinician or your doctor isn't really sure what your university might be looking for. You can just have them fill out that form. So do I need to submit documentation every semester? No, not unless something has changed. But remember, students do need to request their accommodations every semester and specify not only who, but what you would like your professors and other university personnel to know. So SDS can inform them appropriately and make sure that you get accommodated to the extent that you need to be. If I have a disability, is there anything additional I need to do or disclose during the university admissions process? No. The admissions process is exactly the same for all students. So once you've applied and been accepted, we recommend requesting services online through our office and going through our intake and eligibility process. But you're not required to disclose your disability status on the university application at any time. What I will say is if you feel your disability has affected you academically or has had some kind of major impact on your life and you want to share that with the admissions team, I would encourage you to do that, either in your personal statement or in some other way. But we do want to know all kinds of things about our students' experiences before they've come to USF, so that we know what kind of students we're bringing onto campus. And if this experience of having a disability or having some kind of health condition that's affected school is something that's had an impact on your life, I absolutely encourage you to share that. Though this is by no means required of you, and it's not a formal part of the admissions process. So I hope this was insightful, gave you some useful information, maybe just some quick tips, and pointed you in the right direction of where to go. Again, the best resources are our website, www.usfca.edu/SDS. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always call us 415-422-2613 or email us at sds@usfca.edu. Again, my name's Corey Barber. I'm the assistant director and one of the disability specialists, but we have a team of 6, and any one of us can help answer almost any question you have. So we at SDS wish you the best of luck with your college decision-making process, and don't hesitate to contact us with any questions or concerns. Thanks.